Hello, leaders. Ever wondered how to scale your business without burning out? Today's guest went from running a solo practice to leading a thriving multi-location business without losing her sanity. She's sharing the real behind-the-scenes journey from hiring the right team to making bold leadership moves. If you're dreaming of growing your business but aren't sure how to lead at the next level, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, smart leadership for women who mean business. If you're a woman who owns an established business with a team of 5 or more, and you're ready to lead with more confidence, clarity, and impact, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Shelley Warren. Each episode delivers practical strategies to help you build a high-performing team and become the leader your business needs next. Let's get started with this reminder. The team that got you here may not be the team that will get you there. I love introducing you to my clients. Today, you're about to meet Rebecca Rowe, who recently joined the Leadership Lab. She is the CEO of ACT Therapy Services, with 3 locations and a growing team of 22 people in North Carolina. She's a licensed speech-language pathologist in both North and South Carolina, as well as nationally certified through the American Speech-Language Hearing Association. She has over 15 years of experience in the field of speech-language pathology. Her specialty is orofacial myology, and she's a certified orofacial myologist. Rebecca enjoys leading a team of wonderful therapists, learning and growing her skills in leadership, as well as spending time with her 2 daughters, her husband, and her dog. She's a big nature lover, reader, and a mountain lover. Come on, let's meet Rebecca. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I love showing off the people that I get to work with, and I've been so impressed with you. I feel like I've been reaching out to you for years, following you online, seeing what you're up to, watching your practice grow, and have been completely thrilled that the timing was right for you to come and join the Leadership Lab so that I get to support you in a whole new way and that you get to be surrounded by incredible women too. So it's just lovely to now have you on the podcast to be able to share some of your brilliance with all of us.
Oh, thank you so much. No, it's been wonderful so far. I've learned so many things, and I've already implemented several things into my practice and management and leadership. It's been great so far.
Well, I was telling Tiffany the other day, I said, that Rebecca, she is such a great student. I mean, many people that come and join the program really do, I think it's just part of their DNA is they have that student mindset. So they're there to learn, and then they want to apply. They're not there to coast. Like you came in that program and you were like, you meant business. Like you were in there, you knew you're like, hey, I'm on a mission here. I really want to just, absorb all the goodness here. And you did, you dove right in. I'm so impressed with your dedication to learning everything and applying it. And it's fun to be able to watch you grow. So tell us, you are a solo practitioner. You now have 3 locations and a large team. So you've got 22 people on your team right now. How do you describe that? Like, how do you wrap your arms around that, knowing that it's been 9 years and look at you now?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I went into private practice as a side gig. I said, I've had 1 child. I would like to take some time away from my hospital rehab job. I'm going to go PRN. That means, part-time, 1099 work. And I'll work a little bit at the hospital and see a few kids on the side. And I did that for a while. And then a friend said, hey, I would love some work too. Can we pair up? Sure. Hired her for years from about 2016 to 2020. I did home visits and daycare visits, and I rented space from another, an occupational therapy clinic in our area. And I finally just put my foot down in 2020, crazy of all years. COVID is crazy and it's just a circus everywhere. And I said, well, let's open an office. And my real estate agents that have been with me since 2020, they always call me. Yes. So to rent office space here, you're often more successful if you have a real estate agent representing you. And they like to say that I was sandbagging because I started in a 2-room office, right? Because I said, well, I don't, I want to make sure that we can fill it and that we have enough space and not too much space. And then in 2021, spring, I said, we're maxed out. We have to move. So we moved into a 5-room office. And my real estate agents were like, are you sure you don't want to go a little bigger? And I said, no, I want to make sure I can fill the space. And then in 2022, we moved into our office now, which has 3,500 square feet. It's our main office here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's been home, and that will be home until next year when we move into a different space. But they kept saying, stop doubting yourself. Stop thinking that you can't do this. And it's two women who I admire a lot. So it's been a journey. It's been a great journey. A lot of lessons have been learned.
So what are some of the big moments that you experienced just shifting and moving throughout those big milestone moments where you've expanded your space, but you've also expanded your footprint in your communities, your reputation, you've expanded your roster of practitioners. There's just been so much growth happen for you, and quite quickly. What have been some of the big moments that you've had to experience? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I think one, the type of personality I have is jump in 2 feet and think later. And luckily, that works out really well for me. I would analyze the numbers and the client numbers and the revenue numbers and say, okay, this is going to work and we can make this work. Or I've, analyze how many children do we have waiting for services? Can we hire another person? What does that look like? And now we're pretty much at a steady number where I feel comfortable leading this number and being able to lead them well. I tell people that I could be 3 times the size I am now. And there's clinics here that are 60, 80, 100 clinicians. I choose not to be. 1, for my sanity, and 2, for I want our employees to have the best experience possible. I came from our largest hospital system here in Charlotte, which was a great learning experience for me, but I didn't like how I felt when I worked there. And so when I started hiring employees, I said, I never want anyone to feel like I felt when I worked for the hospital system.
How did you feel? Describe what that was like back then.
Back then, it was, obviously a big emphasis on productivity, which I understand. The work is you see clients and the hospital is paid. It's the same for our business. But it was just such a focus on productivity. I might have a patient who's sleeping. I have to wake up the patient to work with them. Might have a patient toileting. I have to go work with them while they're toileting. And then it was just, weekend work. And I was there on Christmas Eve. And I didn't feel appreciated because there was always this standard of we had patient satisfaction scores. And if my good friend Leslie, who worked with me, hears this, she'll giggle. But our speech department, they were always hounding us. Your satisfaction scores aren't good enough. You're not good enough. You need to do better. You need to increase your scores. And we were doing all that we could. I really think that I burned out from compassion fatigue in that setting. It was a lot of caring, and it was a lot of, you're not allowed to be sad or be upset. These are your patients. You have to be happy always for them. And so I really feel like I got burned out. And that's when I made the switch back to children and seeing children on the side. My husband kind of said, why don't you try this? Just see what happens. Just try it and see what happens. I think you would be good at it. And I'd seen, children in the past with my first job before the hospital. So taking that route has helped. But what has really helped is me knowing what my personal boundaries are for treating clients and work and teaching my employees about those boundaries, because this field can cover you up and it can take you down between the workload itself, the documentation, and then just the mental load of thinking about your clients. So, it's having to teach these new clinicians coming on, or new to me clinicians, like, you're not going to call a family at 5:30 p.m. at night. You can wait multiple days to return an email, it's not life or death, right? Like we're here to provide a service and we're here to give 110%, but we need to make sure that we're preserving ourselves.
So is it trying to find a balance between, the PSD from those satisfaction surveys at the hospital and the pressure that was put on you and your coworkers to, get those scores up higher, but then wanting to be able to create an atmosphere, like a culture in your private practice where the satisfaction would naturally occur, like without the pressure of you as a CEO harping on people to boost their productivity. So what are some of the things that you're coaching your team members about in how to make sure that their well-being where it needs to be, so that when they do come in to treat their clients, that they're giving their best?
Yeah, it's definitely two-pronged. It's one, and I think Leadership Lab has been great with this. It's teaching them how to have difficult conversations, from minimally difficult to just really difficult. And also knowing that I'm there to support them, as well as our team leads of how, because of the way we treat clients, which is a neurodiversity affirming approach. We don't force compliance and we don't force children to do things. We play with them and we incorporate their goals in that. And so they know from a top-down umbrella that is how I think. That's how we all treat. That's the idea of the clinic. And there's no question on if, that doesn't work for a family, then we refer the family somewhere else. So I'm always going to have their back. They're always going to have my support in their therapy decisions. We're all on the same team for that. So my employees come first. There's no visit. There's no therapy sessions that worth them being uncomfortable. They know that about me. But the other thing is, and I say this probably every week to a different person, hey, at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, please close your laptop, put it in your bag, go home, take a walk, get outside, eat dinner, read a book, go to an exercise class, do something for you. Like, you need to stop thinking about work. You need to stop thinking about documentation. There will be time for that another day. And yes, we have standards around those things of when they need to be finished, but at 5 o'clock, that's not the time to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Your philosophy of team over client. That's really cool. So how are you holding your team members accountable to meet your standards of compliance, and then just the general standards that you have that are all rolled up into the reputation of the practice?
We do continuing education as a group at least once a year, if not twice. And so that's helpful. During our team meetings, we also have people come in and present about different ideas or continuing education concepts. We do have a therapy guidelines that we follow, and we have families sign that says this is what we will do and this is what we won't do. We have a standard operating procedure around what a session looks like, what an evaluation looks like, what a treatment session looks like, making sure we're involving the family, making sure we're giving homework and that the family knows what we're doing, because that's half the battle. We need them to be involved. It's a high touch. I consider it a high touch environment for us managers and leaders, because we do quarterly check-ins, we're doing yearly reviews, we're doing, other types of check-ins, we're emailing, we're on Teams. And so it's a lot of touch, and we want everybody to take responsibility for their work duties, but to also know that we're here as your leaders to help guide you through hard situations.
I think that's what's really the key to people wanting to stay with you for the long term, is knowing that they're valued, they're seen, they're heard, and that you're putting the effort in to supporting them. So you're not just giving them lip service, you're putting in processes and systems, and then just being really consistent with those so that they trust the system and the process, and then they trust you and their direct leaders, that they really are going to be taken care of here. So how would you describe your leadership style then?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Very supportive, but also with boundaries, because I have a family too. And so my team is great. They know that if it's a 911 emergency, they can pick up the phone and call me any time of day or night. And 911 is very serious. But otherwise, they know if I say I'm going to be out of the office on Friday without cell phone or email access, they know. So I'm very supportive. We all have our own boundaries, and I encourage that. I do sometimes have trouble with people pleasing tendencies, which is something that I'm working on. Continuing to grow my boundaries and learn about what works for the business and what doesn't work for the business, and making sure that I express those things in an effective and kind and clear manner.
So were you finding yourself sacrificing your own plans to support a team member? So essentially playing second fiddle to the team.
That has happened at times. It is getting better. Growing quickly has its pros and cons, right? And one of the cons is not sitting down and thinking through all the what ifs and completing the processes from start to finish and saying, okay, if we do this, how does it impact that? So really thinking through the ifs and thens.
How are you making it all work across 3 locations with that big of a team? Like, how are you doing it? Because, I mean, I love that, but that's mainly because that's where I grew up. That's where I learned to be a leader, was in big organizations and massive teams. And so I get excited about that. But I also know that for most women who launch a business, most of you don't have a vision of 3 or 4 or 5 locations. It often leads to that. It can often lead that way if that's what she really wants. So how do you keep it all together, though? Because you also have a very full life outside of the practice. And you also have, an additional revenue stream for the practice that you're building too. So how are you making it all work?
A lot of time blocking. And not everybody agrees with this, and this doesn't work for everybody. I do get up relatively early, around 5 o'clock, to have like my me time, coffee, book, devotional, and sometimes that includes exercise. Sometimes I do that in the afternoons. But my husband is very supportive of the business. He is the one listening to me sometimes, just counseling me, but also coming in and helping with some physical fixes, almost like a handyman. He's supportive in that aspect, and also supportive of like, hey, I'm going to have to stay an hour late tonight. And he's like, that's fine. Do what you need to do. I'm here. And that doesn't happen often. And I understand and I recognize that not everything's going to get done every day that's on my to-do list. And so I time block what I can. I'm in the office on certain days at certain times, and I'm not on certain days and certain times. And what has really started helping me is time block out every quarter. So in March, I did April, May, and June. And literally on my calendar are my spaces, whether it's like nothing is here. My lunch breaks, they're all time blocked out. And I have a hard stop at the office unless there's an emergency. And so it is me walking away at the end of the day, knowing not everything's going to be completed, and being okay with that.
I just think that's mature. Like when I hear those plans, and I've been watching you since you joined the program, and you've really leaned into drum beats. You've really leaned into CEO days. You've really leaned into that protected time to work on your highest valued work. And so, where I see the proof in that is all of these drum beats that you've set up with this time blocking and really leaning into that method. But the thing that I love about it as well is not only you're protecting yourself and your home life, because I know your husband works from home too, and you're often sharing the same workspace at home. So you want to protect that. But the other thing I love about all of this structure, some people might call it rigor. I don't really think it's rigor. I think it's more structure. But what I love about that is that through our own habits and how we roll through life as leaders, we're teaching other people how to treat us. And in turn, that's very empowering for other people to say, well, hey, Rebecca, like, look at her go. Like, look at how she takes care of her time. Look at how she takes care of her most important work that she's focused on this month or this quarter. So I think there's these teachable moments that we don't often realize. But, our teams, they're watching us. They watch you. They watch you form opinions. They watch you make decisions. They watch you plan your day. They watch you even as a mom and as a life partner. They're watching all of that, and they're learning. They're learning, hey, I love the way she does that. I want to apply that. Or they're watching saying, geez, that wouldn't fit in my life right now. So that won't work for me. Or they're watching something and thinking, oh my gosh, like I would be terrible at that. So I'm not going to do that. But it is amazing how often we forget that our team members are watching us, just like our children are watching us too, right? But team members are watching for sure.
And I like my calendar to be set out so that people know what I'm doing and can see and observe that, no, Rebecca's not, at the spa today. She is, working on the SOP. She is working on the onboarding process and making sure that it looks better, or she's working on her online course. Like I block all that out so that people know basically every single workday what I'm doing and where I'm at. So it's very visible. I'm very open about that. I do want to go back and say some, support wise, from once I opened that office, I hired an admin and I said, I can't manage this by myself anymore. And so I've always had a front desk admin. I have an admin in our Raleigh office, which is about 3.5 hours here in our state capital. So I have an admin in Raleigh, an admin in our main office in Charlotte. I recently hired an office manager for Charlotte. I also have a full-time biller on our team. She's our billing, cycles and revenues manager. And I could not do this without those people. I have colleagues trying to do it right now. And I just know about myself is that I need ample sleep and I cannot be in front of my computer at 10 o'clock at night trying to bill. That was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. But again, it's just really smart and really mature. So where are you finding these great team members to come and join you? So where are you finding your admin team members and where are you finding your therapists?
Yeah. So admin team members mostly have come from Indeed. I've had success with finding team members using the Indeed website. My billing manager, we connected, probably 6 years ago now through a mom's group, through a Facebook mom's group. As far as therapists, if I'm actively hiring, Indeed works very well for that as well. But if I'm not actively hiring, I do get, cold emails of like, here's my resume. I would love to talk to you about a position. And I actually have a call with someone today about a possible position for the future. So it's a variety of ways. And then it's just word of mouth. Hey, my niece is a speech language pathologist. Do you guys have any openings or would love for her to talk with you? One thing that I think fosters hiring in our clinic and just teammates is also hosting students. So we make every effort to host many students. So we actually have 5 coming in this summer to volunteer or intern with us, which is very exciting.
Wow. So the whole intern opportunity, it's funny because I love internships. I always had multiple interns back in my corporate day, and I ran the intern program for many years. And I hand selected the people that joined me, and I saw value in it. Not everyone did. And even, in the work that I do now with clients, they either see the value in it or they don't see the value in it. But what I think the common denominator through offering a great internship program and having success with it is that we need people engaged to host and mentor those interns who really love hosting and mentoring interns. That's really what it comes down to. So what are you finding? Like, what's been your success rate with these interns? And then what happens next? So you've got 5 of them coming in this summer. What do they do when they get there? And then what's going to happen next?
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. So I should back up and probably explain that for the field of speech language pathology here in the States, there's an undergraduate, 4-year undergraduate, and then a 2-year master's program. And so you cannot work without a master's degree. So part of that master's degree are multiple clinical rotations and internships. And so it's a requirement, but we are an open intern site. So, colleges approach us, universities say, can we send a student there this summer, this fall, and whatnot? So the interns really are there to learn about the field and observe first, and then they take on a few clients and a few more clients with the actual speech language pathologist present to get practice in for the real world. That's really great for them and it's great for us. And it's a wonderful opportunity for our therapists to be able to teach and mentor others. On the other side of that, when we have actual volunteers, like we have a few coming in this summer, they're extra hands on deck and they're there to learn. and observe, but we also train them up on cleaning duties and laundry duties and toy duties and organization duties so that they may help and assist our clinic.
Are you finding that any of the students, whether it's just like an individual or it's students from that particular school or that particular pipeline, are you finding that they arrive with these like wild expectations?
A few people in our clinic, I shared this just for giggles, but I did have a student actually cold email from a local university last week asking to do a rotation of 100 hours. And I replied back that, yes, let me know your time frame. We're happy to try to accommodate. But I just, I want to let you know when volunteers do come in, we do ask them to assist around 1 hour a day with 30 minutes to 1 hour of cleaning. And here it's like laundry and maybe a load of laundry or putting away toys to assist our clinicians. And this individual who's a student wrote me back in all caps and said, students should not be asked to do laundry. I hope you will never approach a student about this again. And I said, thank you for your feedback. You're not a good fit for our rotation here. Best of luck to you.
That is so telling, right? That attitude is so telling. But so where are they hearing that? Where do they get that idea?
I'm going to say this, and that's only because we've had a lot of discussions in the last few weeks at our office with our office manager who's in his 50s and with myself and our front desk who are approaching 40. We think our hypothesis is TikTok. And there's a lot of content on TikTok about work-life balance and boundaries, which I 100% support. And then there's also inaccurate information, which people are starting to call out about salaries on Glassdoor.com and other websites that are just not accurate. And they're just not, especially for the southeastern region of the United States, which is where we're located. And so it's a lot of false or inaccurate information. And so we think that there is a combination of maybe this TikTok mentality and also possibly, and you can't blame parents for everything, but possibly how these 22 to 28-year-olds were raised and the expectation of what at home, what that expectation was.
I agree too, but I also hold the professors and the instructors accountable to this because they're the ones that are either reinforcing this misinformation or they're actually the ones sharing it. I've had clients tell me that their newest hires have come in or they find out through a pretty robust interviewing process that they don't believe that they should work more than 3 days a week. Without a day to recover, a recovery day. And then as they dig into that further, this is something that they're learning at school. They're literally learning this at school. And so I just feel like those professors, the parents, TikTok, they're doing these young professionals a disservice by setting them up for these false beliefs as to what's going to be available to them in the workplace. And so what ends up happening is it stalls their progress to build a career because they're not seen as an ideal candidate. So therefore, they're just constantly in this loop of trying to find a job. And they go to interviews, they get declined. They'll go to an interview, they get declined. They go to an interview, they get declined, which is absolutely going to impact their wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like this vicious full circle moment.
It truly is.
But I think as adults in any of our professions, we need to be telling the hard truth, even if they don't want to hear it. And I'm so glad that you stood your ground on this and you're like, okay, well, thanks for sharing that with me. You will not be moving forward with the interview process.
Oh, I think what I've really tried to do too for, new employees is really set the stage and say, these are the expectations. And we actually work a 4.5 day week across the board. So it does allow everybody to leave early on Friday, which is very nice because we're all very tired by the time we get to Friday. But that I set the stage of like, these are an average of our insurance rates. This is what our state Medicaid pays us. This is how many visits I'm asking you to do, which our clinic has one of the lowest caseload counts in our area. These are the supports that you get and making sure that's very clear from day one so that they know the value of our clinic, but also to know that these are the job boundaries and they cannot be altered.
I think that's the other thing too, is I feel like there's an adult, whoever the adult is, whispering in their ear, telling them, well, you know, just get your foot in the door and then they're going to see how great you are. And then you can push back. Then you can start making these requests, which I think happens a lot. Like, and now as the business owner, you're blindsided. Like I know myself, I've literally said to new people that have joined my team, you know, back in corporate, and I would say to them, what happened to the gentleman that I met in the interview? Bring him back. If I don't see him on Monday, we're going to have a different conversation about your long-term fit here because I feel like I've been duped. Bring me back the guy I met in the interview because it's unbelievable what people will believe, right? It's that whole idea, well, I'll be able to convince them or I'm going to knock their socks off that they're just going to give me everything that I asked for. And it's just not the way to go for sure.
I do feel like there's a mismatch in the amount of school that we are required to get, the degree that we're required to get, and the pay that we receive over a lifetime as therapists, as speech language and occupational therapists. It's not a lot, and it stinks, and it's tied to insurance rates. It's a bummer. It's just a big bummer. But there's this expectation of, well, now I have my master's degree, or sometimes they have their doctorate, and I should be paid equal to that. And that doesn't always happen. And so I have had younger therapists come back to me 3 months after starting or 6 months after starting or even at their first review and say, well, my dad said, my uncle said, my sister said, I need XYZ. Or I spoke to this person and they recommended that I ask for X number of dollars. And I'm sorry, we can't do that.
Yeah, the business is not prepared to support that kind of a salary for you. It is a shame, though, because, I mean, we want people to grow their careers. We want them to be continual learners where, you know, they're getting their masters, they're getting their PhDs because of, you know, a genuine interest and curiosity to continue to grow their skills. But I think most often there's an element of, well, if I get this degree, I'll make more money. If I get this next degree, I'll make more money. And in the world of small business, in private practice, where, as you said, so much is hinged on insurance practices, the businesses simply are not able to. Even if the owner wants to, she may want to, but she simply cannot because the business itself is just not prepared to do that. And so how do you think about all of those, you know, those kind of like uphill battles that you have as you're building out these 3 locations? Are multiple locations, is that part of your strategy to be able to be more profitable, to be able to offer more in terms of compensation and plans and benefits?
Yes. So I have a nice little spreadsheet where I insert everything as far as like our average reimbursement rates and all the different types of benefits I provide for our staff, how those are paid, what they're paid, how often they're paid, those kinds of things. But the Huntersville location was based on, I have a really great speech therapist. If she hears this, she'll know who she is, who was living an hour north of here. And I wanted to keep her. And so I found a very small office there to rent on a monthly basis for her to say, okay, like, you'll do schools in the morning under our practice, and then here's your office for the afternoon. And it's 6 minutes from her house, 7 minutes from her house. So it's just a nice, ideal setup for her. And so that's a very small portion. But the Raleigh office it fell in my lap. Somebody else was leasing it, another speech therapy agency, and an email went out. Would anybody like to do this? And my close friend who lives in the Raleigh area said, I'll manage it. Yeah, let's do this. She had some really rotten work experiences in the pediatric therapy realm at some other companies that were not ethical or courteous. And so she was like, let's do this. And it's blossomed into 3 full-time therapists out there. And so each location has a budget, but then also we kind of steal from here to cover this sometimes, or, you know, so the money is, it's all together, but we know what each office can bring in and the revenue, and that's really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like it gives you a little bit more flexibility within your decision space there for sure. So tell us, what have you got on the horizon? I mean, here we are, it's springtime. Oh my gosh. Living in Canada, there's nothing better than the sound of the Canadian geese returning home. It's just the best. And, spring is just one of my favorite times of the year. So what have you got on the horizon that's happening for you this spring?
Yeah. So this spring, as I mentioned before, we brought on an official office manager, and he is still in his onboarding phase and getting up and running, but already seeing positive things from him.
I am so excited about that hire for you. I just think, you were telling me about that in a one-to-one, and I just thought, oh my gosh, it's like the planets aligned.
Yeah, he's excited to be in North Carolina. He moved here from Florida, so he's excited about that. We're excited for his overall experience, that, previous therapy clinic, but also a very strong marketing background, which is an area that we've not been so strong in the last couple years, just out of pure busyness, and I couldn't add another thing to my plate. So he's getting up and running, and we've been doing one-on-one training, which has been great. So that's something I'm excited about, for the future. And we found a bank to work with that has a healthcare section of the bank, First National Bank. And I got connected with a great banker there who has helped us purchase a permanent home for our clinic. And so, yes, so working with our contractor, make sure that when it's being rented right now, when the renter moves out, that we get everything in there that we need to get. And also working with a designer to ensure that it looks great, because our current office is wonderful, and it's it's very nice, but it's also a square peg into a round hole. And so I want the next forever home to be as nice and as functional as possible.
Well, tell us, Rebecca, how can people stay connected to you to learn more about you, your services, your team?
Great. No, people can find our clinic, ACT Therapy Services. That's ACT Therapy Services on Instagram and Facebook. I also have my online business on Instagram and Facebook, and it's RR Therapy Consulting. Look me up there, more to come. I also have websites for both of those, or you can email me at Rowe, RROWE at acttherapyservices.com.
Tell us about the business coaching that you're doing.
This is something that I've dabbled in the past couple years. I coach individuals in their business about big decisions or hiring or different processes that they need. But I also I have 2 online courses right now. One is how to renegotiate your insurance rates, and the other one is more geared towards parents. And it's about myofunctional therapy. And if they have questions, this is a great overview for them. So, working on continuing to market those and post on social media regularly, which I find to be very hard to do. I have another course in the pipeline, coming down the pipeline, just getting everything up and running and online. I just want to be able to help other practice owners, bring in more revenue so that they can feel safe and that they can give employees raises and, purchase materials or purchase a building or whatever they need to do. It's a big need in our field.
Well, I can't imagine how much worry and concern there is for a practice owner who's thinking about opening up a second location or expanding her current space. Or moving into a whole new geographical area. How do you do that? How do you be like a remote CEO and still sustain a reputation, a brand, and a wonderful way of, just really keeping that consistency through all your processes? So I'm so thrilled to hear that people can come and learn all those things from you.
Yes. Very exciting.
Well, thanks so much for coming and sharing all of your stories with us today. There's so many little nuggets of information that you share with us that I'm sure are going to be very inspiring and also very practical for other practice owners out there. And I will see you in our next Leadership Lab call.
Thank you, Shelley.
Rebecca has a lot going on, and I love hearing how she's leaned into time blocking, setting boundaries, and taking a stand for the type of workplace culture she wants to provide her team. I've seen her embrace drumbeats and setting up regular CEO days where she doubles down on that focus time by booking a one-to-one with me at the start of this day so that she can set clear priorities, tackle big decisions with confidence, and ensure she's working on the business, not just in it. This rhythm keeps her aligned, proactive, and leading with intention instead of getting lost in those daily operations. With a growing team, multiple locations, an upcoming move for the practice, and the expansion of her courses, not to mention her commitment to being fully present for her family, she's nothing if not realistic. I mean, come on, let's be honest. More often than not, moms are the ones juggling the details at home. Take Rebecca, for example. She often joins our monthly group calls from her car while the girls are at gymnastics because, well, that's just what working women do, right? It's a lot, and she's doing well to hold herself accountable and remind her team that they need to help themselves not to spiral out of control and into burnout, which is highly prevalent in her industry. 2 of her leadership team members are enrolled in the team leader program here at Stacking Your Team, and it's fantastic to see them take advantage of this career development opportunity that makes their leadership team even stronger. Are you inspired by today's conversation? If you're ready to step fully into your role as leader and finally get out of the day-to-day operations for good, then it's time to join me inside the Leadership Lab. This 6-month high-touch coaching program gives you everything you need to build a strong leadership team so your business thrives without you managing every detail. With my signature tools, frameworks, one-to-one coaching, and even leadership development for your team, you won't just grow your business, you'll transform how you lead it. Apply now with the link in the show notes or pop over to the Stacking Your Team website and take the first step towards true leadership freedom. You don't have to figure this all out on your own. Leadership isn't a solo journey, and the right support can change everything. Together, let's build the leadership team that will set you free.